At 2:13 in the morning, Titan did something Logan Hayes had not seen him do in 9 years. The retired military German shepherd rose beside the hospital bed, locked his eyes on the night nurse, and gave the silent ceremonial acknowledgement once reserved for members of a classified recovery team. His body became perfectly still. His ears faced forward. One broad paw lifted and rested against his chest. The nurse stopped breathing. Logan felt the skin tighten along the back of his neck. Titan had ignored doctors, orderlies, visitors, and every other nurse who had entered Saint Gabriel Medical Center that night. He had not offered that gesture to admirals, decorated officers, or the commanding officer who signed his retirement papers. Yet he had given it to a woman wearing blue scrubs and a plastic badge that read Emily Brooks, registered nurse. Before this story goes any further, tell us in the comments what city or state you are listening from, and whether you believe a dog can remember a person after many years apart. If stories of loyalty, courage, and second chances matter to you, subscribe and stay with us, because the reason Titan remembered this nurse had been buried for more than a decade. Rain streaked the dark windows of Logan's private recovery room. Beyond the glass, the parking lot lights of the Montana hospital glowed in broken reflections across wet pavement. Inside, the steady pulse of monitors and the low hum of the ventilation system made the night feel suspended between one breath and the next. Logan was 38, broad-shouldered even beneath the hospital gown, with the controlled stillness of a man who had spent most of his adult life learning not to waste motion. 3 days earlier, during a mountain rescue training exercise north of Bozeman, a collapsing snow shelf had thrown him against a rock ledge. His right shoulder had been badly dislocated, 2 ribs bruised, and his pride damaged more than either injury. The doctors called him fortunate. Logan did not. He hated hospitals. He hated lying still. Most of all, he hated being separated from the decisions that affected him. In the teams, uncertainty had always come with a plan. In a hospital, uncertainty arrived quietly, wearing soft shoes and carrying a clipboard. Titan had been allowed to remain because he was a retired military working dog, and because Logan had refused admission without him. At 8 years old, the German shepherd had silver beginning around his muzzle, but age had taken little from the power in his frame. His black and tan coat was clean, his eyes sharp, and his attention never wandered far from Logan. Until Emily entered. She stood just inside the doorway with a medication tray balanced against one hip. Her brown hair was tied into a practical knot. A navy cardigan covered her scrubs, though the sleeve on her left arm had slipped back enough to reveal a narrow white scar along the inside of her wrist. For 1 second, surprise moved across her face. Then discipline covered it. "He is very well trained," she said. Logan kept his gaze on Titan. "He is. That is why I know he did not make a mistake." Emily stepped closer, but Titan held the ceremonial posture. She looked at the dog with an expression too quiet to read. Then her left hand lowered beside her thigh. Her fingers shaped a small movement, so brief that anyone without years of operational training would have missed it. Titan lowered his paw and sat. Logan's heartbeat changed. The signal had been exact. Not close. Not similar. Exact. It belonged to a visual command set used during emergency medical coordination between certain military working dogs and a support unit whose official existence had once been denied. Logan had learned only fragments of that command system. Titan knew all of it. Emily moved to the intravenous line as if nothing unusual had happened. "Your pain level?" she asked. 3. She glanced at him. "The chart says 6 an hour ago. I have improved. The medication has improved." Her voice was calm, not amused. She checked the line, adjusted the monitor lead beneath his collarbone, and examined the sling supporting his shoulder. Her hands were gentle, but there was nothing hesitant about them. Titan watched every movement. Emily reached toward the bedside table. Her cardigan sleeve shifted again, and Logan saw that the scar on her wrist continued farther than he had first thought. It was old, cleanly healed, and too straight to have come from an ordinary kitchen accident. "You worked with dogs before nursing?" Logan asked. "No." Titan seems to disagree. Retired working dogs sometimes connect familiar movements with new people. That was not a familiar movement. It was a command. Emily's hand paused over the digital tablet, only for a fraction of a second. Then she entered his vital signs. "You should rest, Mr. Hayes." "Logan." Mr. Hayes is safer for both of us. She turned to leave. Titan rose again. This time he did not salute. He moved 2 steps after her, stopped at the edge of the blanket, and released a low breath through his nose. Not a growl, not a whine. It was the sound he made when something important was moving out of reach. Emily looked down at him. Her face softened, and for the first time Logan saw grief beneath the composure. "You always hated being left behind," she whispered. The words were so quiet Logan almost believed he had imagined them. Then Emily walked into the hallway, and Titan remained at the doorway long after her footsteps disappeared. Logan sat upright despite the warning pull in his shoulder. Titan had not simply recognized a command. He had recognized her. Logan waited until the hallway was empty before calling Titan back to the bed. The German shepherd came at once, but his attention remained fixed on the open door. Logan placed his uninjured hand against the dog's neck and felt the steady pulse beneath the thick coat. "What do you know that I do not?" Titan turned his head toward him, amber eyes clear and patient. Logan had asked that question before. In Afghanistan, when Titan had refused to enter a courtyard that later proved unstable. On a cargo pier in Djibouti, when the dog had found a frightened boy hidden beneath canvas before anyone else heard him breathe. During a flood evacuation in a country Logan was still not permitted to name, when Titan had dragged him toward a collapsed school instead of following the extraction route. The dog had been right every time. That flood operation remained the least complete memory of Logan's career. He remembered rain striking hard enough to flatten the river grass. He remembered carrying a little girl whose shoes had been lost in the mud. He remembered Titan working until his breathing turned ragged. Then came a broken sequence of images. A concrete stairwell, white emergency lights, someone pressing a mask over Logan's face, a woman's voice telling Titan to stay down, a bronze coin turning between bloodless fingers. After that, nothing until he woke aboard a transport aircraft with his shoulder bandaged and Titan secured in a veterinary recovery crate. The official report said the dog had suffered heat exhaustion and smoke exposure after locating 11 trapped civilians. It credited medical support personnel with preventing permanent organ damage. No names appeared. Logan had requested them. The request was denied. He looked toward the hallway again. Emily Brooks had been perhaps 22 or 23 at the time. Young, but not impossibly young. Her scar could have come from that operation. The command signals fit. Titan's response fit. Yet the woman had claimed she had never worked with military dogs. At 3 in the morning, another nurse entered to check his blood pressure. Titan barely opened his eyes. A respiratory therapist followed 40 minutes later. The dog remained asleep. When a custodian pushed a rattling cart past the doorway, Titan lifted one ear, decided the sound did not matter, and settled again. At 4:17, Emily's footsteps approached from the far end of the corridor. Titan stood before she appeared. Logan watched him align his body toward the door. No excitement. No nervousness. Respect. Emily entered carrying fresh bandages. "You should be sleeping," she said. "You should answer one question. I answer medical questions. Where did you learn the Nightingale down signal?" The bandage package stopped in her hands. Outside the room, a monitor chimed twice and fell silent. Rain whispered against the windows. Titan held his place between them. Emily set the bandages on the tray. "I do not know what you are talking about." Logan formed the signal with his left hand. Titan immediately lowered to the floor, chest down, head raised. Emily looked away. "It was used by an emergency recovery program," Logan said. "A program attached to maritime units and military working dogs. Most handlers never knew the name. I heard it once in a briefing and was told to forget it." "Then you should have listened." The answer came too quickly. Logan felt certainty settle inside him. "You were there." Emily's jaw tightened. "Your bandage needs changing. Did you treat Titan?" "Hold still." She removed the old dressing from his shoulder with practiced care. Logan let her work. The silence between them became sharper than an argument. When she reached for medical tape, a small bronze object slipped from beneath her cardigan and struck the floor. Titan moved first. He stepped over the coin without touching it, positioned himself between the object and the doorway, and sat. Emily stared at him. Logan leaned carefully from the bed and picked up the coin. Its edges had been worn smooth. One side showed a nightingale in flight above a trident. The other carried a ring of words in Latin and a date that matched the year of the flood operation. Beneath the bird, almost erased by years of handling, were the letters P and Emily held out her hand. Please. The word was different from everything else she had said. It carried no command and no professional distance. It sounded tired. Logan placed the coin in her palm. Who gave it to you? My brother. Was he in the program? She closed her fingers around the coin. He was the reason I joined. What happened to him? Emily's eyes moved toward Titan. For a moment, the hospital room disappeared from her expression. She was looking at something far away, something still happening behind her eyes. Then an alarm sounded down the corridor. Not the measured beep of a routine monitor. A sharp, continuous tone. Emily turned instantly. A second alarm joined it, followed by a nurse calling for help. Emily ran from the room. Titan looked at Logan once, then sprinted after her. Night, Logan ordered. The German Shepherd did not stop. Logan swung his legs over the edge of the bed, pain cutting across his shoulder. He grabbed the rolling intravenous pole and followed into the corridor just as the lights flickered. At the far end, an elderly patient in a hospital gown had wandered from his room and become tangled against a portable oxygen cart. One wheel had caught on an electrical cord. The patient clutched the rail, frightened and confused, while the cart leaned toward him. Emily was 10 feet away. She lifted her left hand. Titan changed direction without breaking stride. He moved between the patient and the falling cart, braced his shoulder against the metal frame, and held it long enough for Emily and another nurse to steady the man. The cart struck Titan's side with a dull sound. Logan's breath stopped. Titan did not cry out. He backed away only after Emily touched 2 fingers to her chest and pointed to the open floor. The dog obeyed, circled, and sat beside the frightened patient. Emily crouched in front of the man. Mr. Dawson, look at me. You are safe. Titan is right here. The old man's shaking hand found the German Shepherd's neck. His breathing began to slow. Logan reached them, pale from pain and anger. Emily looked up. You should not be out of bed. You commanded my dog. I prevented a fall. You knew exactly what he would do. She rose, and the fear in her eyes was no longer for herself. It was for Titan. She ran both hands along his ribs, checked his gait, then pressed gently beneath his shoulder blade. Titan stood still for her in a way he allowed almost no one else to do. He is not injured, she said. Logan watched her fingers move to the precise place where Titan carried an old scar beneath his coat. A scar hidden from sight. A scar from the flood operation. Emily closed her eyes. When she opened them, denial was gone. Take him back to your room, she said quietly. After my shift, I will tell you why he remembers me. Then she guided Mr. Dawson toward his bed, leaving Logan with the first promise of truth and the growing fear that truth might cost Emily more than she was willing to lose. Dawn reached Saint Gabriel Medical Center in thin bands of gray and gold. Logan sat in the courtyard beneath a covered walkway, his hospital blanket around his shoulders and Titan lying at his feet. The rain had ended, but water still fell from the pine branches in slow, heavy drops. Beyond the garden wall, the mountains were hidden behind cloud. Emily arrived 10 minutes after her shift ended. She had changed into jeans and a dark jacket, though the challenge coin still hung beneath her shirt. Without the nurse's badge, she looked less guarded and more exhausted. She sat at the far end of the wooden bench and kept both hands wrapped around a paper cup she did not drink from. Titan stood. He crossed the space between them and lowered himself beside her boots. Emily looked down at him. You still choose your own assignments. Titan rested his chin on her foot. Logan waited. Emily had promised the truth, but he recognized the way she was arranging words before speaking. People from hidden programs did not forget caution simply because a secret had grown old. Program Nightingale was created after several recovery missions failed for reasons that had nothing to do with combat. She began. Dogs arrived overheated, frightened, or injured. Operators reached medical teams that did not understand the signals handlers were using. Valuable minutes were lost while people explained who could touch the dog, which commands he knew, and whether he would protect an unconscious handler. So they trained medical staff with the dogs. A small number of nurses, trauma technicians, and veterinarians. We learned silent commands, emergency handling, field stabilization, and how to work around teams that could not appear in ordinary records. Your brother? Daniel Brooks, Navy physician. He helped design the program. The name pulled at Logan's memory. He had heard it once, spoken over a radio during the flood evacuation. Dr. Brooks had requested another extraction team. Then the transmission had broken beneath static. Emily looked toward the wet garden. Daniel believed a working dog was not equipment. He said every dog was a decision-maker who happened to have 4 legs. He fought people who wanted medical protocols written around property numbers instead of living partners. A faint smile touched her mouth, then vanished. I was an emergency nurse at Naval Medical Center, San Diego. Daniel recruited me because I had grown up training search dogs with our father. Nightingale gave me operational instruction and a new name on every set of travel papers. We went where we were needed and disappeared when the mission ended. And the flood. Her fingers tightened around the cup. It was not supposed to become a flood. A dam upstream failed during a humanitarian evacuation. Your team was already inside the valley helping local families reach the airfield. Titan found survivors in a school after the lower floor collapsed. You kept sending him back. Logan looked at the dog. I remember. You were injured during the 3rd search. A section of stairwell came down. Daniel treated you while I stabilized Titan. The dog had inhaled dust and smoke, and his temperature was dangerously high. His heart rhythm was becoming irregular. Logan swallowed. The report said heat exhaustion. The report told the part it was allowed to tell. What happened to Daniel? Emily's face closed. He went back for 2 children and a translator. Did he make it out? She stood so suddenly that Titan lifted his head. I told you enough. You promised. I promised to explain why Titan knows me. I stayed with him for 36 hours. I cooled him, monitored his heart, and used the Nightingale commands because he tried to get up every time he heard your voice. When you were moved to another aircraft, he fought the restraint until I gave him the ceremonial hold signal. After that, he trusted me. Emily. She turned away. Logan heard the break in her breathing. My brother did not come back, she said, and I did not go after him. The garden seemed to become quieter. You were treating Titan. I was obeying Daniel's last order. Then you did what he asked. You do not know what he asked. She faced him again, and the discipline had finally cracked. The last clear transmission said, keep the dog alive. Then the building failed. I stayed at the station with Titan while Daniel was still inside. For 14 years, people have told me I followed protocol. Protocol is a clean word people use when they do not have to live with the choice. Titan rose and pressed his shoulder against her leg. Emily placed one hand on his head, but she did not look down. Why hide here? Logan asked. I did not hide. I became a nurse again. Why tell everyone you never worked with military dogs? Because Nightingale remained restricted. Because Daniel's family deserved privacy. Because every time someone thanked me for saving Titan, I remembered who I did not save. Logan wanted to tell her that guilt was lying to her. He had heard those words from counselors after his own missions, and he knew how useless they could sound when spoken too early. Instead, he said, Titan does not remember you because you failed someone. Emily flinched. He remembers the person who stayed. She looked down at the German Shepherd. Titan's ears were relaxed, his weight leaning gently against her. That is the problem, she whispered. He forgave me before I ever forgave myself. The courtyard door opened behind them. Dr. Samuel Whitaker stepped outside wearing a white coat over a plaid shirt. He was in his 70s, silver-haired and straight-backed, with the patient eyes of a physician who had delivered difficult truths for most of his life. His gaze moved from Emily to Logan, then to Titan. I wondered how long it would take him to find you, he said. Emily wiped quickly beneath one eye. You knew? I recognized Titan's military identification number when he was admitted. Logan stood carefully. You were part of Nightingale. Whitaker nodded. Medical director for the Western Support Cell. Emily stared at him. You told me the records were transferred. Most were. Most. The physician looked toward the older wing of the hospital. One field box remained here because Daniel Brooks requested that it remain sealed until either you asked for it or the final restrictions expired. Emily went still. What is in it? Whitaker's expression carried sorrow and something close to relief. I do not know. Daniel sealed it himself 3 days before the flood operation. Logan felt Titan's posture change. The dog turned toward the hospital, nose lifted into the cool morning air. Whitaker continued. The federal release date passed 6 months ago. I tried to contact you. About the box, Emily, but you refused every conversation connected to the program. I thought it was another commendation. It is not marked as one. Where is it? In the old medical archive. Titan began walking toward the courtyard door. Not pulling. not hurrying, leading. Emily watched him go, fear and hope fighting across her face. For 14 years, she had built a life around not opening the last door Daniel left behind. Now the dog she had once saved was waiting beside that door, asking her to choose. The old medical archive occupied the end of a corridor no longer used for patient care. Sunlight reached it through narrow windows clouded by age. The floor changed from polished tile to worn terrazzo, and the air smelled faintly of cardboard, floor wax, and the dry heat of old radiators. A sign beside the locked door read, "Authorized personnel only." Dr. Whitaker held his identification card to the electronic reader. The light remained red. He tried again. Nothing. "Renovation work," he said. "The archive system was updated last week." Emily folded her arms. "Then we come back when facilities opens." Titan approached the bottom corner of the door and inhaled. His body became still. He moved 6 inches to the right and inhaled again. Logan knew that behavior. "He has scent." Emily shook her head. "Nothing in there has carried my scent for 14 years. Not yours." Titan looked at the challenge coin beneath her collar, then returned his nose to the door. Emily slowly pulled the chain from beneath her shirt. The coin rested against her palm. Whitaker stared at it. "Daniel's coin. He gave it to me before the mission." "No. He had 2. Matching coins from the first Nightingale class." The physician stepped closer to the door. "If his field box is inside, the second coin may be with it." The card reader clicked. All 3 looked toward it. The door opened several inches, pushed from within by the pressure change of the old ventilation system. A maintenance worker stood on the other side, holding a toolbox. "Sorry, doctor," he said. "The lock has been acting up. I was checking the wiring." Whitaker thanked him and signed them into the room. Rows of shelves rose beneath fluorescent lights. Most boxes carried ordinary labels: payroll records, retired policies, employee files, equipment inventories. At the rear, behind a locked metal screen, stood a stack of gray containers marked with federal transfer numbers. Whitaker entered a code on the cage. Emily did not move. Logan waited beside her. "You can walk away," he said. "I have done that for 14 years. Maybe walking away kept you alive. Maybe it kept me from living." She stepped forward. Titan led them along the first row, then stopped before a low shelf. He lowered his nose to a narrow gray box and sat. The label had faded, but the typed words remained readable. "Nightingale Western Cell. Field Material. Brooks, Daniel A." Emily's knees seemed to weaken. Logan moved closer without touching her. Whitaker carried the box to a table. A red paper seal crossed the lid. On it, in Daniel's handwriting, were 7 words. "For Emily, when she is ready to remember." Her hand hovered above the seal. Then footsteps sounded at the archive entrance. Richard Collins, the hospital administrator, entered with 2 members of the records department. He was a careful man in his early 50s, always neatly dressed, with the concerned expression of someone responsible for too many systems that could fail at once. "What is happening here?" he asked. Whitaker straightened. "This box became eligible for release." Collins looked at the federal markings. "Eligible for review does not mean authorized for opening. We received a transfer notice. Every Nightingale record is scheduled for collection tomorrow morning." Emily pulled her hand back. "By whom?" Logan asked. "The Federal Archives office in Helena." "Then why was Dr. Whitaker not informed?" Collins's jaw tightened. "Because Dr. Whitaker retired from administrative responsibilities 2 years ago. I still oversee historical medical partnerships," Whitaker said. "And I oversee legal exposure. These files contain private medical information and operational records. If we mishandle them, the hospital could lose federal funding." Logan understood the fear beneath the administrator's firmness. Collins was not protecting a conspiracy. He was protecting patients whose treatment depended on grants, contracts, and public trust. Emily looked at the sealed box. "He wrote my name." "That may establish a personal interest," Collins said, softer now. "It does not establish authority. Daniel was my brother. I am sorry. Truly. But I cannot allow the seal to be broken until federal counsel confirms the release." Emily's face emptied of expression. Titan rose and moved beside the box. Collins noticed him. "Mr. Hayes, please control your dog. He is controlled." "Then move him away." Logan gave Titan the quiet command to heel. The German shepherd did not move. That had happened only twice in their working life. Both times Titan had refused because obeying would have abandoned something he had been trained to protect. Collins stepped toward the table. Titan did not growl. He simply placed his body between Collins and the box. Emily lifted 2 fingers in the Nightingale release signal. Titan looked at her. For a long second, he remained where he was. Then he stepped aside. The refusal, followed by obedience, affected Emily more deeply than any display of defiance could have. Titan had guarded Daniel's final message because he believed it mattered. He had released it because she asked him to. Collins exhaled. "I will call Helena personally," he said. "No one opens the box until I receive written authorization. But I will request an expedited review." "How long?" Logan asked. "Hours, perhaps. A day. The transfer is tomorrow." "I know." Emily placed the coin back beneath her shirt. "Let them take it." Logan turned toward her. "You came this far. And the answer is still no." She walked out of the archive. Titan started after her, then stopped beside Logan. His head moved between the doorway and the sealed box. For the first time since the mystery began, the dog appeared uncertain. Logan understood. Titan could protect only one thing at a time. The woman who had saved him was leaving. The truth that might save her was staying behind. Logan looked at Whitaker. "Get the authorization." Then he followed Emily. Emily was halfway to the main elevators when Logan caught up. "You do not get to chase me through a hospital with an intravenous pole," she said without turning. "I left the pole upstairs." "That is not better." Titan walked between them, matching Emily's pace. Logan ignored the pain gathering beneath his sling. "Why are you afraid of that box?" "I am not afraid of a box." "You are afraid Daniel left something that changes the story." She stopped at the elevator. "The story does not change what happened." "No, but it might change what you believe happened." The doors opened. Emily stepped inside, and Titan followed before Logan could call him back. Emily looked down at the dog. "Traitor." Titan sat beside her. Logan entered. He has always had excellent judgment. The elevator began rising toward the recovery floor. For several seconds, the 3 of them watched the numbers change. Emily spoke without looking at Logan. "Daniel and I argued before the flood mission. He wanted me transferred out of Nightingale." "Why?" "Because I was too willing to take responsibility for everyone. He said one day I would confuse caring with control." "Sounds like an older brother." "He was younger by 11 minutes. The elevator slowed. Emily's mouth tightened around a memory that almost became a smile. "When the dam failed, Daniel was in the school with your team. I was at the mobile station. He ordered me to prepare for mass casualties. Then you came in unconscious and Titan collapsed beside the transport ramp. The doors opened, but neither moved. I begged another medic to take Titan so I could go back," she continued. "Daniel heard me over the radio. He said the dog was the only search asset still able to identify the children under the second wing. If Titan survived, the rescue could continue. If I left, he would die. He made the decision. I accepted it. You saved Titan. And Daniel died." The doors started to close. Logan pressed the open button. Those facts can exist together without one causing the other. Emily finally looked at him. "That is what Whitaker said. It is what counselors said. It is what every kind person says when they want grief to become reasonable." She walked out. Before Logan could follow, a sharp crack echoed somewhere. Below them, the lights blinked once, then again. A low vibration passed through the floor. The corridor lighting switched to emergency power. An announcement came over the speakers. "Attention staff. Electrical fault in the east mechanical area. Prepare for controlled relocation of patients from the older rehabilitation wing." Emily's entire posture changed. The tired nurse disappeared. In her place stood the woman trained to make decisions before fear could slow them. She reached for the wall phone. No dial tone. A second announcement began, broke into static, and stopped. Nurses emerged from rooms. A child started crying. The smell of overheated wiring drifted faintly through the ventilation system. Richard Collins appeared from the stairwell, moving quickly. "Transformer failure," he said. "There is no active fire, but smoke entered the east duct. Engineering wants the old wing cleared." Emily nodded. "How many patients?" 17. 6 need assisted transport. 1 is on portable oxygen. I will take the north rooms." Collins caught her arm. "Emily, security is handling movement. Security does not know which patients become unstable when separated from their routines. Neither do you. You are assigned here. I worked that wing for 5 years." A fire alarm activated in the distance. Not loud enough to create panic, but impossible to ignore. Emily pulled free. Logan stepped beside her. Tell me where to help. You are injured. So are half the people you need moved. Titan can work, she said. The words left both of them silent for a beat. Then Emily looked at the German Shepherd. Can he still perform corridor search? Logan considered Titan's age, the cart that had struck his side, and the years since his last active assignment. Titan stood waiting. He can. Emily formed a familiar hand signal. Search open rooms. Return on find. Titan left at a controlled run. They entered the stairwell because the elevators had shut down. Logan descended one flight with his good hand on the rail. Pain sharpened under his ribs, but he kept moving. The old rehabilitation wing was lit by emergency strips near the floor. Staff pushed beds and wheelchairs toward the central corridor. No flames were visible. The danger came from confusion, smoke odor, and the possibility that backup power might fail. Emily moved from room to room, assigning routes in short, clear sentences. Take Mrs. Larkin first. Keep her blanket with her. Mr. Cole needs the blue oxygen cylinder, not the green one. Do not remove the hearing aids from room 12. Every instruction prevented a problem before it began. Logan helped guide an empty wheelchair through a crowded doorway. His shoulder burned. He hit it. Titan returned from the far hall, touched Logan's leg, and turned back. He found someone. Emily followed at once. The dog led them past 2 cleared rooms to a linen storage alcove. The door stood partly closed. Titan lowered himself and stared beneath a shelving unit. A small boy was wedged behind stacked blankets, both hands over his ears. He had come to visit his grandfather and hidden when the alarm began. Emily crouched several feet away. Hey, buddy. My name is Emily. That dog is Titan. The boy shook his head and pressed deeper into the corner. Smoke odor strengthened. Logan tried to kneel, but pain stopped him. Emily gave Titan a silent command. The German Shepherd lay flat, turned sideways to make himself smaller, and rested his chin on the floor. The boy looked at him. Titan's tail moved once. Does he bite? The child whispered. No, Emily said. He helps people find the way out. The boy reached one trembling hand toward Titan. The dog remained still until the fingers touched his fur. Then Titan shifted backward 1 inch. The boy followed. Titan shifted again. Slowly, without anyone grabbing him, the child crawled from the alcove and wrapped both arms around the dog's neck. Logan lifted him with his uninjured arm. A ceiling light went dark behind them. Time to go, Emily said. They reached the stairwell as the final patient was moved from the wing. Only then did Logan's strength fail. His knees struck the landing. Pain exploded through his shoulder, and his vision narrowed. Emily caught the back of his gown before he fell farther. Titan pressed against his side. Logan, look at me. He forced his eyes open. She checked his pulse, supported his injured arm, and gave Titan the nightingale brace signal. The German Shepherd positioned his body along Logan's left side, creating a stable surface. Together, nurse and dog helped him to his feet. For one suspended moment, the past and present became the same picture. Emily beside an injured operator, Titan holding steady beneath her command, Logan trusting both of them to bring him home. The electrical fault was contained within 20 minutes. No patient was seriously harmed. The old wing remained closed, and the relocated families gathered in the hospital chapel and main lobby while staff reorganized beds. The child Titan found was reunited with his mother near the emergency department. She knelt on the floor, held her son against her, and tried to thank everyone at once. Titan accepted a paper cup of water from Emily, then sat beside Logan's wheelchair while a physician examined the shoulder. The dislocation had not returned, but the strained tissue had swollen. Logan received a lecture, additional medication, and strict instructions not to leave the floor again. He listened with the same expression he had once used during Admiral briefings. Emily stood at the doorway with soot darkening one sleeve of her cardigan. When the physician left, she entered and closed the door. You could have damaged the repair. You could have waited for security. I was working. So was I. You are a patient. You used Titan. I asked if he could work. You said yes. He found the boy. He did. The argument lost its force. Emily sat in the chair beside the bed. Titan moved between her knees, and she checked the place where the oxygen cart had struck him earlier. Satisfied, she rubbed the fur beneath his collar. He is slower, she said. He is 8. He still reads a room faster than most people. He read you. Emily's hand stopped. Logan softened his voice. You did not freeze today. I almost did. When? In the stairwell. When you went down. He remembered the moment only as pain and white emergency light. Emily looked at the floor. It was the same angle. Same light. For half a second, I saw Daniel instead of you. But you acted. Because Titan moved first. The German shepherd leaned into her touch. A knock came at the door. Richard Collins entered holding a sealed envelope, and Dr. Whitaker followed behind him. Collins looked more tired than polished now. His tie was loosened, and dust marked one knee of his trousers. Federal counsel responded, he said. Emily stood. The field box is legally releasable to you as Daniel Brooks's designated recipient. The hospital may witness the opening, but the contents belong to you unless individual pages remain restricted. He offered the envelope. Emily did not take it. Collins lowered his hand. I owe you an apology. You were protecting the hospital. I was protecting procedures. Today you protected people. That was my job. No. Your job assignment placed you on this floor. You went where you were needed. Emily glanced toward Logan. Apparently that habit is contagious. Whitaker smiled. The archive is secure. The transfer team has delayed collection until tomorrow afternoon. Logan shifted upright. Open it here. Emily shook her head. Not in a hospital room. Then the courtyard. It is raining again. Daniel worked in field medicine. He probably did not require ideal conditions. That earned the smallest smile. An hour later, beneath the covered courtyard walkway, the gray box rested on the same wooden bench where Emily had first told Logan about Nightingale. Evening rain fell beyond the roofline. The mountains had disappeared, and the garden smelled of wet soil and pine. Whitaker stood near the door. Collins remained only long enough to sign the release log, then left them privacy. Emily sat before the box. Logan took the opposite end of the bench. Titan lay between them. The red paper seal waited beneath her hand. For Emily, when she is ready to remember, Logan read. I am not sure I am. Titan lifted his head and touched his nose to her wrist. Emily broke the seal. Inside lay Daniel's second challenge coin, a water-damaged notebook, 3 photographs, and a flat envelope wrapped in protective cloth. On top of the envelope, Daniel had written a date 2 days before the flood. Emily opened the notebook first. Most pages contained technical notes about canine temperature control, emergency evacuation routes, and revisions to visual commands. Daniel's handwriting moved quickly across the paper. Several margins held jokes directed at Emily. Stop correcting my spelling. Coffee is not hydration. You cannot adopt every dog in the program. She laughed once, then covered her mouth. The sound broke into a sob. Logan looked away to give her room. Titan did not. He moved closer until his chest rested across her boots. Near the final pages, Daniel had written a list of the Nightingale personnel scheduled for the flood operation. Beside Emily's name were 4 words. Best under pressure. Worst at leaving. Below that, another line had been added later. Teach her that staying can also be courage. Emily read it twice. Her hands began to shake. Whitaker stepped closer. Daniel gave me the box before deployment. He said you would understand the notebook someday. Why did you not tell me? You told me never to speak his name in connection with your service again. I thought honoring that choice was kindness. It was. Perhaps for a while. The flat envelope remained unopened. Emily turned it over. Her name filled the front in Daniel's careful block letters. She stared at it for so long that rainwater gathered at the edge of the roof and fell in a steady silver line. Finally, she slid one finger beneath the flap. The letter began without ceremony. Emily, if you are reading this, either I finally learned to organize my papers, or I failed to come back, and someone ignored your very clear instructions to burn everything connected to Nightingale. Emily closed her eyes. Logan heard Whitaker draw a slow breath behind them. She continued, You will want a reason. You have always believed every loss can be traced backward to one decision, and you will search until you find the moment you think you should have chosen differently. So I am writing this before the mission, while I still have the chance to remind you of something you never remember when another life is in your hands. You are not responsible for making the world fair. You are responsible for the person, animal, or frightened stranger in front of you. You give that life your full attention. Then you release the outcome you could not control. Emily's lips moved across the words without sound. The rain beyond the walkway grew heavier. Daniel's letter continued. If I ever order you to stay with a working dog, a patient, or an evacuation team while I go somewhere dangerous, understand this clearly. I will not be asking you to choose them over me. I will be choosing where each of us can do the most good. Do not insult me later by turning my choice into your guilt. A tear struck the page. Emily pressed the heel of her hand against her mouth, but the grief she had contained for 14 years had already found a way through. Her shoulders folded. The letter trembled. Titan rose. He placed one paw across the center of his chest. The same ceremonial acknowledgement he had offered when he first saw her. Emily looked at him through tears. Logan understood then that Titan had not saluted a rank. He had not recognized a uniform or a command alone. He had remembered the promise Daniel made every Nightingale dog learn through repetition. When a medical specialist assumes responsibility for you, hold steady. Trust the hands that stay. Emily reached for Titan. The German shepherd stepped into her arms and allowed her to bury her face against his neck. No one spoke. The hospital continued behind the glass doors. Phones rang. Wheels rolled. Somewhere a baby cried and was comforted. Life moved forward with no awareness that one woman had finally been released from a sentence she had imposed upon herself. After several minutes, Emily sat upright and finished the letter. There was one final paragraph. You will probably leave the program someday. You may become an ordinary nurse in an ordinary hospital and convince yourself that ordinary work is smaller. It is not. Every room where someone is afraid needs the same courage. Every frightened family needs someone who can stand still when the world changes. Keep doing that. And if one of our dogs remembers you years from now, believe him. Dogs have always been better judges of character than we are. Your brother, Daniel. Emily lowered the page. A laugh escaped through her tears. He knew. Whitaker nodded. He knew you. He wrote this before the flood. Yes. Then he knew he might order me to stay. He knew he trusted you enough to obey. Logan picked up the second challenge coin. Its worn bronze matched the one around Emily's neck. When he placed them side by side, the Nightingales faced each other, and the separated halves of the Latin phrase formed a complete sentence. No one returns alone. Emily translated it softly. Titan lay across both their feet. For the first time since Logan had met her, she did not look as though part of her remained on duty somewhere far away. She looked present. The next morning, Emily asked Richard Collins for one condition before allowing the hospital to preserve copies of Daniel's notebook and the released Nightingale records. No display about a hidden hero, she said. No portrait with my name larger than anyone else's. Collins sat across from her in his office. What would you accept? A working program. She placed Daniel's notebook on his desk. Train hospital staff to receive military working dogs during emergencies. Teach them how to support handlers, how to read basic canine stress signals, and how to coordinate with veterinary teams. Use the public parts of Nightingale. Improve them. Make sure the knowledge does not disappear into a glass case. Collins looked at Whitaker, then Logan. Can it be done legally? Whitaker nodded. With civilian protocols and proper review. Logan rested his good hand on Titan's shoulder. I will help. Emily looked at him. You are still a patient. I am being discharged. Only because the doctors are tired of arguing with you. That is still a discharge. For the first time, her smile reached her eyes. Collins approved a planning committee before noon. The decision did not become a headline. No reporters appeared. No dramatic ceremony filled the lobby. The first meeting took place around a scratched conference table with bad coffee, 3 nurses, 2 veterinarians, a retired handler, Dr. Whitaker, Emily, Logan, and Titan asleep beneath the projector screen. They named it the Nightingale Working Dog Recovery Partnership. Emily insisted Daniel's name appear on the founding page. Logan insisted hers appear beside it. They argued for 20 minutes. Titan woke, looked from one to the other, and released a long, impatient sigh. Whitaker laughed so hard he had to remove his glasses. In the end, the page listed every known member of the original program, followed by a line for the dogs whose actions had made the work necessary. Titan's name came first. By spring, the new partnership had trained its first group of nurses, emergency technicians, and hospital security officers. The lessons were practical. How to approach a working dog without crowding him. How to protect an unconscious handler without triggering the dog's defensive training. How to recognize heat stress before collapse. How to move a dog through a crowded hallway when elevators failed. Emily taught the silent commands that could be legally shared, but she taught something more important before every session. Do not begin by asking what the dog can do for you, she told them. Begin by asking what the dog is trying to tell you. Titan attended every class. He demonstrated positions when his joints felt good and watched from a padded mat when they did not. Younger dogs arrived from police departments, search teams, and veterans organizations. Some were restless beneath fluorescent lights. Others disliked the polished floors. Titan greeted each one with the steady patience of an old professional who no longer needed to prove anything. Logan's shoulder healed, though he never regained quite the same range of motion. He accepted that with more grace than Emily expected. Instead of returning to mountain rescue instruction full-time, he divided his weeks between training handlers and helping Saint Gabriel build emergency plans for working dogs. He also returned for coffee more often than the work required. Neither he nor Emily named the change between them. It grew through ordinary things. Shared meals after late classes, quiet walks in the courtyard, conversations about Daniel that no longer ended in silence. Logan told her about the missions Titan had completed after the flood. Emily told him how Daniel once smuggled a stray puppy into a field clinic and denied knowing anything about it while the puppy slept inside his jacket. Titan usually rested between them, as if supervising a negotiation that had taken far too long. Dr. Whitaker retired at the end of summer. During his final shift, the staff gathered near the rehabilitation wing and presented him with a framed copy of the Nightingale motto. No one returns alone. Whitaker read it, then looked at Emily. I am sorry I mistook silence for healing. She embraced him. I am sorry I made silence the only way you could respect me. The old physician nodded toward Titan. Fortunately, he was less polite. Months later, the first real test of the partnership came when a highway accident sent an injured search dog and his handler to Saint Gabriel during a winter storm. The emergency department moved with calm precision. A nurse dimmed the lights. Security cleared a direct path. A veterinary technician met the ambulance at the entrance. No one shouted over the dog. No one tried to separate him from the handler without preparation. Emily guided the team. Logan watched from the hallway with Titan beside him. The younger dog trembled until Emily lowered her hand in a simple stay signal. He focused on her, then on Titan, who had settled quietly several feet away. The trembling eased. The handler recovered. The dog recovered. Both went home together 4 days later. After the ambulance bay doors closed behind them, Emily stood beneath falling snow and watched the vehicle disappear. Daniel's challenge coin rested beneath her coat. Logan joined her. You did it, he said. We did. Titan leaned against her leg. She looked down at the silver around his muzzle. Age had slowed his steps, but not his attention. His eyes still followed every doorway. His ears still turned toward a worried voice before anyone else noticed it. He will not work forever, Emily said. No. What will he do when he retires from retirement? Logan smiled. Probably continue ignoring every plan I make. Titan looked at him and sneezed. A year after the night they met, Saint Gabriel placed a modest photograph in the partnership classroom. It showed Daniel Brooks kneeling beside the first Nightingale training group. Emily stood at the edge of the frame, young and serious. Several handlers surrounded them, and 4 German shepherds faced the camera with varying levels of cooperation. Beside that photograph hung a newer one. Logan stood with his healed shoulder slightly lower than the other. Emily held both challenge coins in her palm. Titan sat between them, one paw lifted against his chest. The caption contained no medals, ranks, or claims of heroism. It read, Loyalty remembered. Courage listened. Visitors often asked about the words. Emily never gave them the classified details. She told them only that a dog had once recognized someone who had forgotten how to recognize herself. Years later, when Titan's running days were behind him, he still visited the hospital garden. Children recovering from surgery sat beside him. Veterans who did not want to talk rested their hands on his back. Nurses finishing difficult shifts found him beneath the pine trees and stayed for one quiet minute before returning inside. Titan asked nothing from them. That had always been his gift. One autumn evening, Logan and Emily walked him toward the hospital entrance as golden light filled the hallway where their story had begun. Titan moved slowly, but when Emily lifted her left hand, his ears rose. She formed the original Nightingale acknowledgement. Titan stopped. With careful dignity, he lifted one paw and placed it against his chest. Emily's eyes filled, But this time the tears carried no shame. Logan rested a hand on her shoulder. Titan lowered his paw and continued toward them, choosing, as he always had, not the past and not the mystery, but the people waiting in front of him. Some records preserve names. Some monuments preserve victories. But loyalty preserves the moments no archive can fully hold. It remembers the hand that stayed, the voice that brought calm, and the person who chose compassion when no one was watching. What stayed with you most? Titan's memory, Emily's hidden courage, or Daniel's final message that no one returns alone? Share your thoughts and where you are listening from in the comments. And subscribe for more stories about canine loyalty, sacrifice, healing, and the quiet heroes whose greatest acts are remembered first by the dogs who trusted them.